Alrighty, it's time to move on. The report is that Jets wide receiver Elijah Moore asked for a trade amid his frustrations with his lack of targets. Is this a bad look on the Jets or Elijah Moore? And Zay, you being the Jets fan on this show, the mic is yours. Talk to the people.
I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say this only. Usually, when a player in this magnitude complains, it's rather one or two things. The team is losing, and he feels like he could be an impact to them winning football games. Why is he not getting the football? Or he's a selfish individual when the team is winning and he's not getting the football, complaining about not getting his touches and getting his receptions and touchdowns, et cetera, et cetera. Elijah Moore fits in the category of this, what I just said, but also he feels that he is open majority of the time, and why is he not getting the football? Now, statistics say that is the case. Statistics say that Corey Davis gets more touches, more catches, and more on targets than Elijah Moore, and Elijah Moore is more open. We get that argument. But the fact that your team is 4-2, the fact that the last 3 weeks you have not been, the last 2 weeks, excuse me, your team has not been behind on the scoreboard, and you're expecting more targets, more receptions, more shares when the running game has been extremely good the last 2 weeks. You cannot make that outcry right now. You cannot say, I'm requesting a trade when your team is over exceeding expectations at a particular juncture when no one expected y'all to do anything. I didn't expect them to win 6 games this year or more than 6 games this year. It was a situation where I feel like he was crying for receptions, crying for targets, and he's like, why am I not getting the ball? Why am I not being seen on the football field? It does not make any sense why I'm not getting the recognition on my offense that I deserve, that defenses are paying me respect. Like, why do people from outside of organizations showing me respect? Oh, you're a talented receiver. Keep the course. Keep working hard, et cetera, et cetera. I just think his ego leaked out. He came from a program where he was the number one guy. Then he went into a Jets team that was crumbling, and he didn't know what to anticipate. He thought he would be the guy on a bad football team, and now he's just realizing he's another receiver on a football team that's excelling at right now in this particular juncture. They're over exceeding. I think Robert Saleh said it best in his press conference today. He said this: him being out for Sunday is not a punishment. He needs a couple days to himself. He needs just to cool off, because you can't just be in place in a football game after you just argue with the offensive coordinator. You're calling out the offensive coordinator for not giving you the plays so that you're doing well, so that you're being, bright. Your light is being brightened. And I think, it sucks for him because there's another guy in Denzel Mims who has the same issue. He wanted targets, he wanted playing time, and now Denzel Mims is getting that time. At 6'3", a tall receiver, which the Jets could utilize right now. And I think out of spite, I don't know if it's going to be out of spite, but it's going to happen where in this next game, Denzel Mims might get a touchdown. He might get a few more targets because at 6'3", you're towering over corners. The reason why Corey Davis is utilized so much is because he towers over corners, over DBs at the height that he's at. So the fact that Elijah Moore at 5'10" is being an out route receiver, not in the slot, it changes a lot of things in the game. And I think Elijah Moore, like I said, it upsets me that he spoke out right now and requested a trade when we're winning football games. It's just that right now is just not the time. Everyone had to sacrifice to get to this point. Zach Wilson threw the ball 39 times in 2 weeks because he had to sacrifice in order for this team to win football games. If he wanted to be a selfish individual and throw the ball 40 times a week, he could, but he doesn't. So that's the whole thing with this whole situation. I think Elijah Moore should have kept his mouth shut and waited for his time to shine, or at least kept the conversation private instead of going out in public and making this spectacle.
Look, I want to jump in here real quickly here that I'm going to pass the rock to Jimmy. Now, I would say this to broaden my level of understanding. I think I'm going to go with the Jets here. It's a bad look on the Jets. And the reason why I say this, and I'm going to be very clear here, I'm going to make all my points clear as day so nobody can come back and say, Lil, what the hell are you saying? It's going to be clear. Now, to start it right here, I think when you talk about Elijah Moore, you made that Zach Wilson comparison. This is why I made my statement on the show talking about Russell Wilson and why the receivers get labeled as the diva position when in all actuality, they're the most hard to understand position. We can't put ourselves in their shoes. For example, the NFL stands for not for long. You're not going to be playing long. That's what stats show, no matter what position you are. Tomorrow's never promised in the NFL, right? I'm not going to come at a guy who's trying to make an impact on the game, because we all know production gets you your money to run up a bag. He's trying to take care of his family, possibly. Zach Wilson could show in a few years that he's worthy of being extended and getting that max contract, and he could take care of his family. Garrett Wilson, the guy that they throwing the ball to the most, may be able to take care of his family. Sports is a business. That's what it is. There's a business side to sports, and some of these players got to do what they do. I see NBA players all the time come out and say, I want out. And nobody talks about, if he want to leave his job, I can leave mine too. He can leave his, right? So it's the same thing with Elijah Moore. No different than what somebody in the NBA is doing. Now, the thing about it is, Robbie Anderson last week, he got ostracized because he, got into it where his coaches ended up getting traded to the Cardinals. But I seen that happen with Tom Brady, and I'm a Tom Brady fan. There was a couple years ago where him and Bill O'Brien was going at it on the sideline in a game against the Washington football team, not named the Washington football team at that time, the Redskins, and nobody talked about it. He goes off on sideline tirades all the time, and that's my guy. But he goes on sideline tirades all the time, and nobody talks about it because he's a quarterback. But when it comes to the wide receivers, it's, look at him. He's a bad teammate. He want the ball. This and that. Russell Wilson requested a trade from Seattle. What's Russell Wilson doing right now? Nada.
Exactly.
Okay, he ain't doing nothing, but nobody talked about Russell Wilson in any type of bad shape or form. But when it comes to the wide receivers, you know what I'm saying? It's always a different tone that somebody's saying. But you know what? This is the Jets to me, because the Jets are not even doing a good job of utilizing Elijah Moore. I said it before. I think Elijah Moore is the best wide receiver on this team from just a skill set perspective, but he doesn't get used like it. He has first of all, this team has a man coverage problem. They don't have a lot of guys that can separate. Okay, Garrett Wilson being one of them, Elijah Moore, you can argue, being another, and Corey Davis being another. And we saw last year against Jair Alexander, Garrett Wilson got taken out the game. Like, he got thrown the ball 4 times, 0 catches, 3 pass breakups. Elijah Moore is a slender frame dude, 5'8", slim frame. Why is he running deep routes on 80% of his snaps? Right when you could get yak yards. Get the ball to him and let him make yards after the catch. He should be playing Garrett Wilson's role. Garrett Wilson should be playing his role because he knows how to go vertical and make some of those leaping abilities downfield. So that system right there, that's the coaching staff right there, not utilizing receivers right. And if you're not going to utilize me right, and that's going to come back to bite me when it's time to get paid and cut the check, then guess what? You don't have no respect. I want out.
You can't disagree with anything that either of you said, because both of you make very solid points. But if you're really asking me to pick a side here, I think I would have to side with Zay a bit more, because this is the first time in God knows how many years that the New York Jets are actually relevant. And when the New York Jets are relevant, it's good for football.
7 years.
Same with the New York Giants. They're 5-1. The Jets are 4-2 at the time we're shooting this. Obviously, things could change, but at the time we're shooting this, both New York teams are actually relevant for the first time in 5-10 years. But that's beside the point. I'm sure we'll talk about the Giants another day. But as it pertains to the Jets, I have Elijah Moore's stats here so far in the 2022 season. At the time we're shooting this, he's got 16 receptions for 203 yards and not a single touchdown pass. So, in a way, I can understand why he's frustrated, but at the same time, you need to understand that, A, your rookie quarterback, well, actually not rookie quarterback, your second-year quarterback in Zach Wilson just is coming back from injury and is actually balling out right now. He looks very good. He's not doing too much. And B, your running game is actually one of the best parts of your game. Breece Hall could be Offensive Rookie of the Year this year. That's how good their running game is. And then you mentioned guys like Corey Davis, who I actually think is going to have a not a breakout year, but actually a pretty good year this year. So these are the things that Elijah Moore has to understand. Yes, it's frustrating that it's always frustrating when a player doesn't get enough carries when running the football or receptions when trying to receive the football. I completely understand where Elijah Moore is coming from. But where I side with Zay here is that why'd you have to come out public with it? Like, why did you have to make this a bigger deal than it had to be? You couldn't have just kept this private with your coach and your offensive coordinator. And speaking of the coach, I actually have a couple of notes here from a press conference this past Monday from what both Elijah Moore said and what Robert Saleh said. I want to read what Elijah Moore said first because he's playing it off as no big deal. And I saw the tweet that he said, I love my teammates and all that stuff. This is what he said on Monday. If I say what I really want to say, I'll be the selfish guy. We winning. Grateful. Huge blessing. All I ever wanted. Bittersweet for me, but I'll be solid. So I'll just stay quiet. Just know I don't understand either. Maybe you should have stayed quiet in the first place instead of tweeting that out and making it a bigger deal than it needed to be. And as it pertains to Robert Saleh, according to him, he thought Elijah Moore was fine. He said, quote, we had a conversation. He's fine. He's a competitive young man. I've got no problem with Elijah. He's one of our high character individuals. Eventually, the production part of it that he's hoping for will come. So at least Robert Saleh is acknowledging that, hey, it's not where he wants to be right now, but hopefully they will utilize him a lot more this season, which I hope so too, because he is actually one of the best receivers in the game in my eyes. So Elijah Moore, I respect you. You're a great talent. You're actually making the Jets relevant. You're one of the best parts of their game. But you should have kept this in-house, man. Why are you going out here just blabbing about it to where all of us are talking about it? And not just that, requesting a trade? I mean, talk about drama, man. I mean, thank God the Jets said, hey, we ain't trading your ass for anything. We need you on this team. So it's clear that they're going to utilize him a lot more. So Elijah Moore should have kept his mouth shut, just focused on playing football. That's just where I stand. So, Zay, I'm with you on this one.
Look, to be fair here, I think a lot of the tactics that we see from individuals and athletes, what's understood or not understood is that sometimes the agent get in the air. Remember, the agents are the one that's making the money from them getting the check. So right. They're the ones that get behind their ear and tell them certain tactics to take it, pardon, so they can get their way. So maybe that's a combination of Elijah Moore and the agent. I don't know, and I don't really care at this point. But my thing here is another reason why it's a bad look for the Jets is because it's another wide receiver saying, I don't want to be here. You know what I'm saying? Like the what's the name? The meme of Magic Johnson. I ain't gonna be here. Right? That's another meme right there for the Jets because let's go back down memory lane. Not even wide receiver. Jamal Adams, remember him? He wanted out. Oh my God. He forced his way out. Right? Denzel Mims was another guy that wanted out as well. Tyreek Hill threw up the deuces at this team, said, I'm not going to the Jets. Excuse me. And also, Stephon Diggs said, I'd rather go to Buffalo in the cold than play with the Jets. So that reputation is going to build. You kind of build and idolize or not idolize, but everybody look at you from your reputation. The reputation is that Jets wide receivers don't want to be there or wide receivers don't want to play for the Jets. That's only going to affect you going down the line, especially Garrett Wilson.
I was going to bring that up, Leo. Look at Tyreek Hill. He literally, out of his mouth, said, "Who? The Jets?" Yeah. Come on. Well, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, and that's why Quentin Williams gave him a stiff arm from hell and let him go to the ground. Listen, I'm gonna say this real quick. There's two guys on this team, on this Jets team, right? That Denzel Mims, when he wanted the voice about being traded, was preseason. After that, he stopped. He got quiet. He didn't play. He was waiting for his time to get traded. He wasn't active. He didn't make any hoopla about it. It's not going out in the news. He's not going there being negative towards his team, towards his teammates. Robert Saleh actually came out this morning on an interview and stated Denzel Mims has been putting in the work. He's prepared to play on Sunday because Elijah Moore is getting that rest, that cool off period to really just relax and get back onto the offense.
Yeah, and remind me again. I don't mean to cut you off again. Who are the Jets playing this week?
Denver Broncos.
They're going to wipe the floor with the Broncos.
So it was that. And then also another guy who got drafted last year who was expected to be the number one running back, but they drafted Breece Hall was Michael Carter. You don't hear him complaining, talking about, I want more touches, I want more this and that after seeing what Breece Hall is doing. Michael Carter took a step back in his offense.
Yeah, but he's still getting reps. He's still getting reps.
So was Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore's still getting. It's not like Elijah Moore's not getting targeted. Elijah Moore is getting targeted.
Exactly. The Jets are a one-first team, so even if he's taking a back seat, he's still getting reps. Correct. Right now, what I'm saying is that Elijah Moore is the best wide receiver on this team. And I believe that. And Elijah Moore knows that. He knows his worth. Okay, so it's like, all right, you have me run 80% go routes down the field, and y'all not looking for me, right? The offensive line has improved, but at the same time, when guys have physical coverage against a guy like him at his size, he's not going to be able to make a play. That's why it's up to the coaching to kind of like put everybody in positions to contribute to this team. That's a coaching thing. And right now they winning games, yeah, but who are they winning games against? Let's talk about it. The Packers, right? The Packers.
Wait, hold on. Packers is like top 5 in pass defense.
I'm not trying to throw shots. I'm
not trying to throw
Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly. I'm not even trying to throw shots at Jimmy's team. They playing gritty, the Giants, but they lost to the Giants the week before. Right? They don't look the same.
Yes.
They have no wide receiver on this team that's worth staying up at night for. Right? Another team they beat. Who else they beat? The Browns? Like, come on, it's the Browns with Jacoby Brissett. They blew that game anyway. So the games that they're winning, it's like, it's not nothing scary. So it's like at some point they're going to come back to earth and they're going to be on the losing end. So it's like, it makes no difference to me. Like, it really doesn't.
Like you stated before, at 5'8", it's very difficult to find a receiver out there as 5'8". When you got Corey Davis 6'3".
It's called yak.
Corey Davis is 6'3", getting defended by 5'9" corners. I'm saying, watch Denzel Mims on Sunday. I guarantee you he's going to have a good game because at 6'3", he towers over corners. There's not many defensive backs out there that be able to guard 6'3" guys who could jump.
Called yak, bro. How tall is Tyreek Hill? Tyreek Hill is like 5'11". That's why they get the ball to him.
Okay, but they throw the ball right next to him. It's not like he's out there.
Guys that have speed, that can be able to get yards at the catch. That's why you do it. Like Garrett Wilson could do both. He can get yards at the catch. He can run deep. But if you know one wide receiver is more suited to play the yak guy instead of the X guy, then allow him to be in that position. All you got to do is flip-flop, bro.
I understand, but let me ask you a question. If the Jets are winning games and they're only throwing the ball 17 to 18 times per game, how many targets does Elijah Moore want per game? Because it's like everyone can make the same argument. I'm not getting enough targets at that point. If Elijah Moore got 8 targets and then Garrett Wilson got 3, is Garrett Wilson going to complain, oh, I didn't get enough targets this game? No. You know why? Because they're winning football games. Okay, it's about character at that point. Let me ask you a
question. And I know this is about to be probably the lamest analogy I ever came up with on the show. But it's actually an analogy. And that's why it's called an analogy, because you make a comparison. If we did a show right here, myself, you, Zach, and Jimmy, and me, Zach, and Jimmy is just going at it, and you just sitting there, you know what I'm saying? Just sitting there like Molly on First Take, right? Not doing nothing, okay? You're going to feel a type of way. You're going to be like, yo, I want to speak my piece, bro. I want to get my word in because I have good things in my mind to offer. I have good perspectives to offer on the show. You're going to want your reps, right? So that's...
Listen.
Hold on, but now we're all winning.
Out there.
No disrespect to Molly on First Take, but you do make a fair point there.
Get it? Listen, but if we're all winning,
cardio out there, I could do that in the gym.
Get it? Listen,
cardio.
The whole point is this: if we're all winning, and it's a part of the team that we're all winning equally, at the end of the day, we're all winning. That's the whole big thing. It's about winning. It's not about individual accolades. Because if he wants individual accolades, he could request a trade. He could sit out the rest of the season and get moved to a team that is not going anywhere and let him rack up his yards. Because that's what you could do. You could easily go to another team.
And I get the team aspect of it, and I get how unprofessional it could look, right? The Robbie Anderson situation. Like, there's always a perspective. You can look at both situations and say it's unprofessionalism at the highest of levels. And I get all that. And I get the team aspect. But come negotiations, that's not a team aspect thing. The team is no longer involved in that. That's you and a guy cutting your check. And if you don't have the type of production that you need to be able to get that check cut out to feed yourself and your family, then there's a problem. Like I said, NFL's not for long, bro.
I want to say one last thing, and this is big, right? Because Elijah Moore had to really think this through before doing it, because now you complaining about targets and touches while your team is winning is a negative look on the outlook on any NFL team. Why would we want you if you're complaining about targets and touches while your team is winning?
Listen, the Packers should take Elijah Moore. Let's be real. The Packers should want anybody. They should call up Antonio Brown.
He'd be a much better option on the Packers than who they have now.
Oh, yeah.
Other than Randall Cobb, who, by the way, is hurt, by the way. Wish him nothing but the best. But other than Randall Cobb, who do they have? Nobody.
Matter of fact,
who they had to get offer? Nobody.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Hold up.
Exactly.
Didn't Odell Beckham come out and complain about his targets? His dad dropped a whole 11-minute video of him not being targeted, and Sean McVay said, "You know what? I don't care about that. I want to win a Super Bowl." They traded for that guy, so don't give me that.
How long was OBJ's name in the mud since then?
Don't give me that. Right? We all know Antonio Brown's rap sheet. He got called by Tom Brady. Don't give me that. If you can play in the NFL, no matter what you do, you're going to be able to get another gig somewhere else.
You know, it's funny because I love the OBJ and Elijah Moore comparison because OBJ was dragged through the mud for years, even when he was in Cleveland and go to end of years in the Giants. You know, even as soon as he went to the Rams, when he dropped the ball to the 49ers cornerback on that last play, he was dragged through the mud. It was until that Super Bowl happened when people were like, "Oh wait, OBJ's back!" Like it took all that for that to happen. So I'm saying to say this, you know, you're a young guy in the league. I understand you want your touch and you want to look great. Don't get me wrong, we understand that. But your team is winning football. Not most importantly, the team you're on hasn't had a winning record in 6 games in 7 years. That is the most important thing. You're having
and the funnier thing about that, Zay, that was when Ryan Fitzpatrick was their quarterback, and they almost made the playoffs had it been a loss by Rex Ryan and the Buffalo Bills at the time.
Exactly.
Just saying.
So the thing is this: you have to context with a lot into it. We understand you want your targets, you want your shares, but you have to understand when to do it and how to do it the correct way. Just because your agent says, "Yeah, go out and go public," that's not something to do because it looks bad on other teams. You have to look at your agents like, all right, are you just trying to grab money? Because you might possibly a wrong owner. If the owner got wind of this, let's say this happened on the Cowboys. Jerry Jones is a type of spiteful man that will end somebody's career. Just based on what you did, like, all right, you just sit on the bench and you let your career rot because you didn't prove nothing yet to get your back. So we'll just let you sit.
Part of being a good team, right? And like I said, the Jets, it's hard for me to come at them right now because they're winning games. But what I'm implying is that it's a facade for right now. Like they're building something. We all can agree they're building something for the future, not for this year. They're overachieving right now because the NFL is underachieving. That's why they overachieve. If you look at their schedule going into this year, you will look at that Packers game and be like, "Oh, they're gonna lose that game against the Packers." Aaron Rodgers back-to-back MVPs. That's a loss. But the Packers are underachieving, right?
Yep.
So a lot of the teams are underachieving. That's why they overachieving. Now, your job as a coach, as an offensive coordinator, is to be able to utilize your best assets on the football field. Elijah Moore is what I consider one of your best assets. Utilize him. That's all he's asking. That's all I'm asking. That's all the Jets fans is asking as well, that want to see Elijah Moore pop. That's what the fantasy manager of Elijah Moore is asking. Just utilize the kid. That's it. Give him more reps.
Fair point.
Listen,
it is what it is.
I think one last thing for sure, right?
Yeah.
Like Lo stated best. The Jets are in the right direction. No one's saying they're playoff contenders. No one's saying they're Super Bowl contenders, but they're in the right direction and they're building something. We don't know what that something is, but they're building something nonetheless. We just wish that this situation would have been just behind closed doors opposed to being in the media because the Jets are known for having issues in general, but on the field issues. And now they have an off the field issues, which is not pertinent for this team. And like I said, like Lil stated before, receivers don't want to come here. So we have to bring everybody homegrown. And now the homegrown guys don't want to be here, and Elijah Moore and Denzel Mims. So it's something that needs to just be continued in-house. I think Robert Saleh did a fantastic job in the press conference, not making it a bigger thing than what it is, because it is an issue within his offense, but it's not something that's being highlighted by the coaching staff as in, yeah, you know, it's a huge deal. We don't know what's going to happen. Like, no, they acknowledged, his teammates acknowledged, you're a big part of this team. You're a big part of this offense. We want you here. We're going to figure it out, but take a couple days off, cool off, and come back to work because we need to find ways to better utilize your talents on this team. And I'm glad that Robert Saleh came out publicly and said it because, I mean, of course, any coach has to say it, but he said all the right words because he could have been Mike McCarthy and said something way left that no one needed to hear. So I'm glad that he came out and said what he had to say. So we just have to wait and see what's going to happen.
Robert Saleh is a professional. He's a professionalist. So that's why I didn't expect anything different for him to handle any other situation different. Like, one thing I give Robert Saleh is he knows how to talk in front of the media. He knows how to handle the media. Now, 100%. I'm going to end here. I'm going to end here with this topic here. Now, if Elijah Moore, let's say he comes back, he plays not this week, but next week or whatever week after that, and he starts getting reps, then you will say that this was the right decision, that it was worth it, that it was worth coming out and just throwing that smoke signal so you can get what you want and you can help your team contribute to W's in the column.